continue with that story, however, of course, it will be a gruesome and grueling process as families try to identify the people who died in that fire. Postmortems have been completed on the 77 bodies recovered. Families are going to the Diepkloof mortuary to claim the bodies of their loved ones. Reporter Heidi Giokos is covering that leg of the story, and she joins us now live from Soweto. Heidi, obviously families coming in and out of that particular area trying to find out if at least the ones who are recognizable are their family members. You spoke to a family from Zimbabwe. Who died from that family?
Yes, and as you rightfully mentioned in your introduction, Masego, it's really grueling and gruesome given the fact that only 10 bodies were not burnt beyond recognition, which really goes to show what actually happened in that fire in the early hours of Thursday morning. But we got a chance to speak to one family from Zimbabwe, and you could actually see how traumatized they were in terms of saying that only today did they realize that their family members, so a mother with her 2 children, tragically lost their lives in that fire. Luckily for this family, we have been told that their bodies were indeed recognizable, so they did not have to provide any DNA sampling, and we do know that that whole process is probably going to take some time. So they have been informed, they were rather informed, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday, that their family members could have been part of those who lost their lives in that fire on Thursday morning, and they decided to come here today to have a look at those bodies, and they realized that it's the mother with the 2 daughters, I think the youngest being about 9-10 years old. So that was obviously very difficult for the family. In terms of funeral preparations, we have asked the family, and they've indicated, well, they're only now 100% sure that it is indeed the family that's it is their family. And let's just listen to what they had to say to us about the whole process around recognizing and identifying the bodies.
Luckily, they were not burnt beyond recognition. Right, we managed to identify them. They are in a state that we are able to identify them. So luckily, we were able to identify them, the 3 of them, the mother and the 2 daughters.
How old were the 2 daughters?
The first daughter is around 15, if not 14. Then the other one is around 9-10.
And Heidi, as he says, fortunately for them, although in this case, of course, the word fortunately we're using quite loosely, they were able to at least see this mother and her 2 children because they were not burnt beyond recognition. So what about those whose family members are burnt beyond recognition?
That is going to be a very difficult task for over 60 families, Masego, because we have been told that over 60 bodies have been burnt beyond recognition. That makes it very difficult for family members needing to really, come in and recognize. I just need to move out of the way because we are seeing people trying to get into the mortuary, Masego, so just bear with us at this point. But, families are going to have to provide DNA sampling. And the question was, what happens in a situation where you have bodies burnt beyond recognition? How do you identify the body? What kind of DNA is actually needed in this particular process? We have been told that DNA can be conducted through somebody's teeth, nails, and in some instances they are very fortunate to still sometimes have fingerprints where they are able to get any kind of identification in DNA through fingerprints. So we spoke to one mother who says she knows that her son stayed there. She obviously wasn't happy with the fact that her son stayed there, but she's been traveling from Atteridgeville every single day since the news broke. She says she heard it on the radio when she woke up in the morning on Thursday. She couldn't understand what was going on. She switched the TV on and she said, I'm pretty sure that my son stays in that building. And out of the bodies that have been brought here, so the 77, she says she did not recognize any body, well, out of the 10 that are recognizable. Her son was not there, and that's why she's been asked today to provide DNA sampling. She has not been given an indication as to when the results will come out, and that is the difficulty in all of this, because we already know there's a massive DNA backlog in this country. So is this specific situation going to be prioritized? I think that's definitely something we need to ask SAPS. But let's listen to what the one mother had to say about providing DNA so that she can figure out whether or not she lost her son in that fire.
Yesterday I was here, they showed me the people, those who are dead, and then I didn't find him. Today they said I must come back and take a DNA. They've done it now. I'm going home.
And did they tell you how long you must wait before you know if he's one of them?
No, they said they will call me. They just said we will call you.
So how are you feeling, Mama? You must be devastated. It's difficult, no?
Very difficult. You can't sleep. Even now I've got a stress. My neck is paining, my shoulders are paining. They said to me it's stress.
And Heidi, I can imagine that many other family members that you're meeting there at the Diepkloof mortuary are feeling the same stress as Mama said to you.
Definitely, Masako, and a lot of them actually not wanting to engage with the media, and you can understand why, because for them their priority is to figure out what exactly is going on, whether or not they've lost their loved ones, and whether or not their loved ones are among those that are identifiable. You know, some of the stories we are hearing, Masako, it's so grueling and gruesome to just think about. Now imagine you know that your loved one stayed in that building. Now you need to come to the mortuary and identify them, with majority of the bodies being unidentifiable because of how badly they were burnt beyond recognition. So you can imagine the secondary trauma that many of them have to be subjected to. But it's something that needs to be done. And I think the difficulty here also is that we have been told that a lot of those who resided in that building are from Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Malawi, the majority Malawi, and we've also been told that some are even from Lesotho, even here in South Africa. So the challenge is especially for those that are not from here, not from South Africa, because there needs to be a lot of logistics sorted out, and if DNA is going to take some time to come back, it just further complicates the process for those families, but also really delays the closure for these families. But when we spoke to Gauteng Health earlier, they did say that they're doing their very best, but the DNA ultimately lies in the hands of the South African Police Service, and we already know the state of our DNA backlog in this country. So it just becomes a little bit more difficult, and a little bit more difficult to really close this off, because one can imagine how difficult it is for everyone.
All right, Heidi Giokos live for us in Soweto. Let's leave it there for now.